We are going to remove one whole region from the game. The land, the characters, its history, and the game content. In the past week, we've gone through hours of research to determine the one region, Mondstadt, Liyue, Inauma, Sumo, or Fontaine, that we could do without. In the comments of my shorts, y'all were not mincing words. So let's dive deep with our very first region, The first region we are visiting is the titular starting point of the game. We get to be introduced to the world of Tevat through the city of Mondstadt and the vast plains and gorgeous coastlines. Now, Mondstadt is pretty key for three particular reasons. When it comes to the German-inspired hills and forests, Mondstadt brings to us a bunch of beginner tutorial sections to teach us about the game, but they intrinsically do not bring about content usable across the other regions. Well, except for these next few items, starting with yes, the wing glider is an essential part of Genshin's mechanic of exploration. Taken from the Breath of the Wild glider, the Genshin glider functionally works very similar, and in an open world game where you could be climbing the equivalent of Mount Everest in Dragonspine, it pays to have a glider to bail you out to a safe landing. Without being able to enter Mondstadt or meet Amber, who initially gives us the glider, we will be stuck to the ground in water, unable to soar the skies and explore many parts of the map that are air accessible, a high impact item that Genshin players could probably not go without. Our second item is not necessarily an item, but a location. The Musk Reef is a small reef area that seemingly is abandoned, but is host to a weird portal that seems to open up when we approach. Here comes the Spiral Abyss, the singular endgame content that we've received through Genshin's lifetime and has been to this day the hardest content we've received. If Mondstadt were to be removed, so too does the Spiral Abyss go, leaving theater crafters and hardcore players with nothing but genius invocation TCG. And oh yeah, that's gone too. The last item we wanted to highlight is the Mondstadt Statues of 7. But Josh, don't they just give us some Primo Gems and Mora? What else does the statue give me? EXP books, maybe some wishes, some fates, maybe the stamina. Oh yes. If we were to move the Mondstadt region, we would also be losing out on half of our stamina, which is absolutely crucial for many exploration requirements, to be able to climb, swim, or glide long enough to reach the goals. And of course that means less climbing time with Lisa and her JP voice pack. But many aspects of the game, even combat, would be nerfed without the presence of those statues gifting us the stamina. And before we head out to the next region, to highlight some other important contributions in Mondstadt, they include the Viridescent Veneros set, which arguably allows Anemo characters to be as relevant as they are, from Kazuha to Mondstadt natives like Sucrose or Venti. And without Mondstadt, we would lose the presence of meta characters, such as those and the likes of Bennett and Fischl. But can these items from Mondstadt compare to the impact of this next region? It's China's very own. Now, Liyue has a ton going for it, and especially since the region is the one represented by the country of the company, there's no way that Liyue was going to be shafted. They put all the manpower into ensuring that Liyue was absolutely packed, and oh boy, did they not disappoint. From the moment you enter the marshes to see the Wangshu Inn, to the vast mountain ranges of Qingyu Peak. If you didn't notice, or did, I didn't mention any particular POIs within Mondstadt. Well, that's because it's a bunch of flat, plain farmlands that are overrun with hilichurls. Liyue has some of the most sophisticated designs ever in a video game, ever. And I haven't even started talking about the harbor, the splendid ambiance, to the layers of street vendors, stalls, and inhabitants. Liyue is arguably the single best city in the game. And with that, Liyue brings about a few goodies that have really impacted the game and the whole Genshin experience, starting with the level 3 reputation rewards. That gives us a crafting recipe for the condensed resin. One of the better quality of life changes that we've received from Liyue These little doohickeys allow players to save their stamina for domains and character building material. No longer did we have to begrudgingly sign in every day to make sure that we weren't running out of stamina. We could condense them and reserve them for days where we could spare time to use them in bursts, which allowed the players to be more flexible with their time. A huge addition to the game. Oh, and don't forget those statues of the seven that give us stamina. The quality of life given from Liyue is pretty cushy. Alongside the condensed resin comes a gadget given to us by a seemingly unsuspecting grandma. That is, when we rub the delicate china and reveal the domain within the Serena Teapot. The Serena Teapot is Genshin's version of a housing system, a whole separate level that allows players to have their own private space within the game for us to play Barbie, create furnishings, and interact with characters. A mechanic well asked for since even the beginning of the game until its eventual launch in 1.3. The Serena Teapot also allows us players to grab extra valued character building resources, speeding up our progress and allowing the Animal Crossing players to have their own fixation. Lastly, it wouldn't be Liyue without the rich culture, as the region hosts arguably the most memorable and largest impact event within the game. Chinese New Year, or should I call it, the Lantern Rite Festival. From the beginning of the game, that event was heavily marketed, and for good reason. It holistically is one of the best events in the game and not only has amazing cutscenes, story, minigames, but also allows players to choose a Liyue 4-star character. Without Liyue, we wouldn't have this event or access to characters like Shinchou, Beidou, Yao Yao, 3 very strong 4-stars alongside some other notables. And let's not even get started with the 5-star characters like Big Dong Zhong, Ye Lan, Wu Tao, Zhao, or Shunhe, and the best DPS 4-star in the game, the pole arm archon themselves, Xiangling. And before we move on, make sure to stick to the end to not only figure out my pick, but also I have a very special gift for y'all. But can characters really carry a region? No other location could have this situation, much like our next region. It's time to visit Inazuma, when it was announced, gave Genshin the greatest boost in playership. The region is based on the glorious land of Nippon, after all. And at the end of the day, even though the land was separated by water, inspired by the island nature of Japan, the lands still felt connected, and each of them had their own singular POIs that made each sub-region stand out. But can you guess what Inazuma's greatest contribution to Genshin is? Let's find out. When it comes to the content in Inazuma, personally I look more towards the stories and events than just items, gadgets, or even singular collectibles. Inazuma's story content was a drastic shift into a more mature and solemn piece, talking about the fleeting nature of life and what core aspects define someone who is living or in pursuit of their goals, ideals, and passions. We also have riveting events such as the Iridori Miyakawa flower festivals. We got iconic scenes like the girl dancing, getting her socks wet, Raiden fighting us, Raiden fighting Senora, Raiden fighting Raiden? Overall, the introduction of Inazuma, the region itself did not necessarily give us any real concrete piece of content that is connected through all regions. Well, with the exception of fishing. But it did give us arguably one of the strongest overall artifacts in the game, the Emblem of Severed Fate. This set is broken relative to the other artifacts on so many levels, as with many of the Inazuma characters, and now it is best in slot for a 4th of the overall cast. Emblem is the best set. For Cautious, it's supposed to be Dia's best in slot? No, it's Emblem. Xiangling, who uses Pyro, should use Crimson, right? No, it's Emblem. With recent characters, the set has strayed away a bit since the newer sets are much more niche and cater towards single characters. Albeit, it's well to note that this single domain was where we were all living for months into the Inazuma patch, and even still as people are trying to farm for those beautiful emblem pieces. But maybe we can convince you with all the other characters that have come from Inazuma. We have the Shogun herself, Yaimami Miko, Fish Dragon, her pet dog, Siscon, Wet Socks with Blonde Butler, and arguably one of the more popular overall characters in the game, Kaidehara Kazuha. His introduction into the game was the drippiest, most moist entrance we had seen in Genshin ever to that point. The swag, the stature, the power, and of course, the heartfelt journey he undertook with us going back to Inazuma to help usurp the Shogun. Kazuha was definitely one of the best boys of the region, and arguably the entire game. But the release of Inazuma was not one of controversy. This next region started out that way. It's time to head to the desert or forests of...
Countless beautiful Parisaras began to bloom wherever she stepped.
Sumeru, for me personally, was a much brighter experience than when we were first dropped into Inazuma. Because we didn't have to deal with the inscrutable tax enforcement and illegal citizenship. But back to Sumeru, it has so much going for it, from the vast collages of forest regions to its barren yet picturesque deserts and pyramids. The region of Sumeru, in just landmass alone, was definitely the largest addition into the game, and thus more content, more story, more exploration with it. Then comes the Archon quest, which to me personally felt the most cohesive and well executed. But there are two things that Sumeru has brought to the game that has really changed the landscape, and one is not really what you think it is. It's finally time to talk about the elephant in the room, what Sumeru is most well known for, and that is the introduction of the latest combat mechanic to the game, the Dendro element. Almost a renaissance for characters like Kukishinobu and Kutsing, the Dendro element brought about a new meaning to Hydro and Electro characters, and I guess Pyro. But Dendro allowing us to create catalytic reactions that not only were just involving one reaction, but branching reactions allowed us to create many different types of combos and truly diversify the game. From characters like Nihida, who is the single best Dendro unit in the game, to others who fill in other niches like Baiju, Alhaitham, and Yao Yao. The Dendro element is insane. But remember, just because we remove Sumeru does not mean that Dendro does not exist, because Yao Yao, Baiju, and the likes of Kirara are out of Sumeru. So technically, Dendro would still exist if we were to remove the Sumeru region. A weird technicality, but if we were to go by this logic, we would still have access to Dendro in the form of those three. So does Sumeru bring to us anything exclusive that is introduced within the region? To be honest, not really. This is not looking good for the Sumeru region, but it's time to bring in the extra pinch hitter, and this one is going to play to the F2Ps, because we're going to be talking math. Well, not exactly math, but generalized math surrounding the Primo Gem count of Sumeru. So far, we have three main reasons to believe that Sumeru is the pot of gold for Primo Gems. Now, maybe we can get into a more objective discussion about the Primo Gem contributions of each region, but if we were just talking about exploration and what the land directly gives us, Sumeru has every region beat. The landmass is astonishing and almost doubles Mondstadt, which means we can even speculate that Sumeru has double the amount of offered gems. And that's not including events, the tree that gives you wishes for sigils, etc. Sumeru is truly a hidden land of treasure. And would you be able to give that up? And finally, we are heading to the most recent region, the Land of Agua. Welcome to our last destination. Now, let's make a disclaimer first. We have not yet reached Fontaine's full potential, and for all we know, 4.2 will become the singular patch that saves Fontaine from being plucked out of Tavats. So let's mainly focus on what they've been able to give us so far, and to be honest, it's a lot. Firstly, the stories so far in Fontaine are exquisite. I had quite a bit of fun with the linear portions of the first two Archon acts. The whodunit style quest makes for a fun novelty, and who doesn't like crime thrillers? Of course, the whole main city of Fontaine is gorgeous. The landscapes, the layering, it's quite well crafted. And we haven't even mentioned the main attraction of Fontaine, and that is... Yes, the swimming in Fontaine is amazing. Arguably one of the most visually stunning water levels that doesn't come from a pure water-based game, the likes of Subnautica. It feels fresh, open, bright, and it wants you to explore the depths with all the fun little critters and cute enemies, which was directly one of the goals put out by the dev team, and they delivered. Although the diving mechanic does not span the other regions, it makes Fontaine all that much more exclusive to have so that we can continue to play with the otters and feed the seals. Again, there's much of the region that is yet to be unlocked, and we are approaching some of the more anticipated banners, like at the time of the recording, Furina has yet to be released, alongside Cloren, Navia, and Arlecchino. So don't think Fontaine is done yet. We still have a lot of ballgame to play in our French-inspired region. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. What is Joshua's choice from instant continental removal? Which of these countries of Teyvat are getting the big boot? And my choice, something I had to mull over for quite some time, is going to be Inauma. I know, I boasted about the story, the impact of the region, the characters, and how Inauma brought about some really strong upgrades to the game. However, when it comes to the impact outside the region, much like how it is separated from other countries, so too does it feel like Inauma does not really contribute anything grander to the overall state of Teyvat. The characters are amazing and some of my favorite of the franchise, but the other regions have amazing characters too. And if that's all that Inauma has to contribute, I'm ready to give it the good old boot. And I'm also okay with missing Enconomia, the worst expansion of any region thus far. So, do you agree with my pick? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you stayed to the end of this video, know that I'm running a few giveaways around my Twitch channel if you'd like to swing on by and come watch us make content live. Make sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons and turn on that bell for notifications. Click on one of these videos. Watch what we have going on next. We'll see you in the next one. Josh out.